Hello, and welcome back to the Pirkei Avot text explication series with your host, me, Rabbi Drew. We are now on the 22nd and final text of the fourth chapter of Pirkei Avot. I mentioned yesterday that we're going to have a return visit from the rabbi in the 21st text, and he is back. His name is Rabbi Elazar HaKappar, and this starts off with three words that we're typically accustomed to hearing, not infrequently throughout Pirkei Avot. Hu haya omer, he used to say. Meaning, this is a common expression, a common wisdom saying one would go around saying. Which is fascinating, and what really stands out about this one, usually they don't necessarily stand out, but what really stands out about this text that we have with us is its length. I really don't think we have seen a text as lengthy as this throughout Pirkei Avot. In fact, we may have seen some texts, perhaps in the second chapter, that, as a package they were lengthy, but they were comprised of multiple various statements. What really stands out about the text we have in front of us, the 22nd text in the fourth chapter, is that it is all comprised of one saying by one rabbi. Now, it is seemingly composed of there are various components to it. It is certainly an interesting one, and this one really focuses on God. It is really a theological statement. We really haven't seen a lot of those. We really haven't encountered a lot of those throughout Pirkei Avot. But this is glaringly a very interesting one that talks about life. It talks about God. We're going to go into it. So he starts off by saying, Hayiludim lamut v'hametim lehe chayot v'hachaim ladun. There are ones who are born to die, there are ones who have died or are brought to life, and there are ones brought to life and those who are living are judged, are to be judged. Okay, there's a lot to unpack. It's really just three pieces right there, right off the bat, that everybody who's born is going to die. I'm not really sure what this hametim lahei chayot, that those who are dead will be brought back to life, which is an interesting one, and then closing off with v'hachaim lidon, and that those who are living are to be judged. Now, that's his opener. That's just his opener, right? And already we're talking about life, death, judging. So we're getting to some pretty heavy stuff right off the bat from Rabbi Elazar HaKappar. He then continues, Leida lahodia ulhivada, those are just the first three words, which is so to know, to make known, and have the knowledge that God is indeed God. Okay, so I'm going to read this Hebrew, translate it, and we'll come back. Leida lahodia ulhivada shehu el, hu hayotzer, hu habore, hu hamavin, hu hadayan, hu aid, hu ba'adin, v'hu atid ladun. It's a lot. It's all about God. This is to know, to make known, and have the knowledge that God is God. God is the designer. God is the creator. God is the discerner. God is the judge. God is the witness. God is the complainant. And God is the one who will summon to judgment. God does a lot here. Certainly in the theology of Rabbi Elazar HaKappar here, God really is a lot. Okay, God is all about the knower. He knows, he makes known, he makes people to have known, as well as the creator, right? Hayotzer, Hahuabore, two different types of creation, as well as the Hamavin, right? One who discerns, as well as Dayan, Eid, Baldin, Atiladun. Various components of adjudication, of judging us, whether on an individual or more broadly. Okay, so there's a lot when it comes, even just this component, there's a lot when it comes to knowledge, awareness, and not just knowledge, but doing something with that knowledge. Okay, the next segment is Baruch Hu she'ein lefanav lo avla v'lo shichacha v'lo maso fanim v'lo mikach shochad she'akol shelo. Blessed be he before whom there is no iniquity, no forgetting, nor unfair respect of persons, nor taking of bribes, for all is God's. Interesting. This seems to be more along the lines of referring back to to what we just encountered as far as the judging aspect. The knowledge aspect, right, we just encountered not forgetting, and also the not taking bribes or showing unfair advantage to people, which really is important when it comes to adjudication, to judging. So that's what this piece is referring back to, the previous aspect, as far as God may be these various aspects a part of the adjudication or judging process, but God's going to do it entirely fairly. Why? Sha'akolhu. Everything's His. Everything's God's. So God can't be bribed. And the final piece, which is long, V'da sha'akol lefiha cheshbon. Okay, know that everything is according to the reckoning. Okay. Val yavtichacha yitzircha shehashol beit manos lecha shal karchacha ata yotzar v'al karchacha ata nolad v'al karchacha ata chai v'al karchacha ata met v'al karchacha ata atid litain din v'cheshbon lifnei malchei hamalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And let not your impulse assure you that the grave is a place of refuge for you. For against your will were you formed, against your will you were born, against your will you will live, against your will you will die, and against your will you will give an account and reckoning before the King of the kings of kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. Okay, that's a lot, right? That is absolutely a lot. I find that fascinating. Don't think that just because once you die, that's it. There's this reckoning about the world to come and so forth. Also, all this language of against your will, right? Against your will you were fashioned, against your will you were born, against your will you live, against your will you die, and against your will you will atili din v'cheshbon lifnei. All right, you're going to be forced to give judgment. You're forced to confront the life that you have lived. Clearly, here in Rabbi Elazar HaKappar's vision of life, of living, of God, and all that all those relationships and judgment, for that matter, that God is a force to be reckoned with. God is this huge force, not to be trifled with. Clearly, very powerful, and I don't want to say that we're mere puppets compared to God, right? Even though He does use this language, all karchacha, against your will, even against your will you live. You don't really have a choice, and no matter what you do, you know, it's interesting because starting off, it's easy to say against your will you were fashioned, against your will you were born. That's absolutely true. Then he goes on, against your will that you live. Okay, to some degree, I guess that's true, but you probably have a choice. But what about dying? No, even against your will, you will die. And then going back to the beginning part of this final component of the statement, that don't even think that going to the grave is going to be it. Because you're going to then be forced, you're going to be compelled to be judged. You're forced to reckon with the life that you have lived. There's a real lot to unpack here. We're not going to get into everything. But ultimately, the way that Rabbi Elazar HaKappar here views the world, our relationship to God, is that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-judging, and that we are in God's world, ultimately. We are in God's world. And this relationship between living, life, and death, it's all part of God's construct, God's fashioning, God's workings, and God's making sure things happen. But there's also, I think what gives a sense of hope about this, and Rabbi Elazar HaKappar's envisioning of this, is also that this is going to be entirely fair. Okay? God is the judge. There's no other adjudicatory, no other judges. Okay? And God cannot be bribed. God does know things. God's not going to forget the good things that you did. So forgetting can have some benefits, but it can also have some setbacks. So God not forgetting and God knowing can actually serve in our benefit when we are being judged. So a lot to unpack, a lot of interesting theological propositions here that Rabbi Elazar HaKappar is setting forth. And we have now completed the 4th chapter, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'm excited to start the 5th chapter of Pirkei Avot soon. All right, thank you so much for watching.